You've heard me talk about this book a lot, the Read Aloud Handbook, one of my favorite books. Well, in this video, you have a chance to earn your own copy, and we're also going to go over some do's and don'ts for Read Aloud, so stay tuned. Our House. Hi everybody, my name is Karen. Welcome back to our channel called Our House. And recently when I went to Savers, that on Monday, it's half off and you buy, I think 4 books, you get 1 free. I found this, which I don't really ever find a copy of this book at thrift stores like that, and it's a really great copy, and so I'm going to give this copy away. Stay tuned for the end of this video where I share with you the details how you can be entered to win this copy. Why is this book one of my favorites? It has a great chapter for dads to read, just one chapter that will really motivate them to read aloud to their children. We go over reading, why read alouds. It's got a huge list, a treasury of read alouds in the back, tons of them. It's pages of do's and don'ts, so many good tips, but I'm just going to read a few from each category, a few do's and a few don'ts. Okay, for do's, do begin to read to children as soon as possible. The younger you start, the better. Use Mother Goose rhymes and songs to stimulate an infant's language and listening. Begin with simple black and white illustrations. Babies really love the black and white contrast. And then start with the boldly colored picture books to arouse the child's curiosity and visual sense. With infants and toddlers, it's really important that you pick books that contain a lot of repetition, and as they mature you can add predictable rhyming books. Let's see here. Read as often as you and the child have time for. Remember that the art of listening is an acquired one. It must be taught and cultivated gradually. It does not happen overnight. Start with picture books that only have a few sentences on the page, and then move on to books that have more and more text and fewer pictures until you graduate to chapter books and novels. So follow through with your reading. If you start a book, it is your responsibility to continue. Don't leave a child hanging for 3 to 4 days while you just haven't gotten around to reading the book. Unless it turns out to be a bad book, then don't feel bad to just cut it, because it's a lot of energy and time to do read alouds. It's not worth it on a bad book that no one is into. Occasionally read above children's intellectual levels and challenge their minds. Avoid long descriptive passages until the child's imagination and attention span are capable of handling them. There is nothing wrong with shortening or eliminating them. Now, this is something that I have done and continue to do. If there's a book that has really long narrative, I kind of look through and see where I can jump to next, where it doesn't affect, the storyline. This is a really good one. Allow your readers a few minutes to settle down and adjust their bodies and minds to the story. If it's a novel, begin by asking what happened when you left off yesterday. And that is something that I always do. I said, okay, where were we last? Just to kind of re-jog everybody's memory. Now, the mood is an important factor in listening. If you're just, being like, stop that, settle down, sit up straight, pay attention, it's not a very cozy read aloud mood. So something to keep in mind. Remember that everyone enjoys a good picture book, even a teenager. Remember that reading aloud comes naturally to very few people. To do it successfully and with ease, you must practice. Adjust your pace to fit the story. During a suspenseful part, slow down and lower your voice. A lowered voice in the right place move listeners to the edge of their chairs. And I talked about this in Reading Magic. I'll put a link to that video where the different things that you can do with your voice can really make a huge difference in your reading aloud. Here's a really good tip. Be a good coach. When you come to a part of the story that the audience might not sense as important, they're kind of glazing over it, pause and then whisper, that could be important, kind of re-engaging them so they're following you with the story. And there's like 2 more pages of do's. It's so good. So let's talk about a few don'ts. Don't read stories that you don't enjoy yourself. Your dislike will show in the reading, and that defeats the purpose. And there have been some books where I really did not like them. I disliked them, and it was challenging to get through them. So make sure that you like the book. Don't continue reading a book once it's obvious that it was a poor choice. Admit the mistake and choose another. Make sure, however, that you've given the book a fair chance to get rolling. Some, like Tuck Everlasting, start slower than others. If you are a teacher or a homeschooler, don't feel you have to tie every book to classwork. Don't confine the broad spectrum of literature to narrow limits of the curriculum. Don't overwhelm your listener. Consider the intellectual, social, and emotional level of your audience in making your read aloud selection. Never read above the child's emotional level. Don't select a book that many of the children have already heard or seen on television. This is true. It's such a killer for my kids is for me to try to read a book that they've seen a movie on already. There's zero interest. So that's something to keep in mind. In choosing novels for reading aloud, avoid books that are heavy with dialogue. They are difficult for reading and listening. All those indented paragraphs and quotation marks make for easy silent reading. The reader sees the quotation marks and knows it is a new voice, a different person speaking, but the listener doesn't. And if the writer fails to include a notation at the end of the dialogue, such as said Mrs. Murphy, the audience has no idea who said what. Now, this is very true. However, one caveat I would say is that read aloud, professional recordings, read alouds are way better at this. If there is a novel where there is a lot of dialogue like this and it's difficult to keep track of who said what, I mean, you're only obviously one voice. Read alouds, professionals are really good at distinguishing the different characters, the different dialogue. So if there is a book like that that you want to hear, maybe consider that one as an audio book. The professional ones are really great at that. Don't get too comfortable while reading. A reclining or slouching position is apt to bring drowsiness. This is so true, guys. I have literally fallen asleep while doing a read aloud. So it can happen. Be careful. Don't get too comfortable. Don't be unnerved by questions during the reading, particularly from very young children in your own family. If the question is obviously not for the purpose of distracting or postponing a bedtime, answer it patiently. There is no limit for reading a book, but there is a time limit on child's inquisitiveness. Foster that curiosity with patient answers and then resume your reading. This is a really good one. Don't confuse quantity with quality. Reading to your child for 10 minutes with your full attention and enthusiasm may very well last longer in the child's mind than 2 hours of solitary television viewing. All right, so those were just a few tips, just a couple pages from the Read Aloud Handbook. Again, it is one of my favorite books. It is really great. And this is a used copy. Just beware, this is not a brand new copy. This is from the thrift store. There's just a couple of pages that are bent, but there are no markings. It's a very clean copy. It's still in really great shape. So one lucky winner will win this and I will ship it off to you. All you have to do is just like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below saying that you would like to be entered. That's all. That's it. So just go ahead and leave your comment. This is still a relatively small channel, so your chances are good. If you'd like, please share this video with somebody who you know is interested in learning more about how to read aloud for their family. Just recommend them this book. It is such a great book. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.